Newt Gingrich was on Fox News Sunday, and he spoke about the issue of healthcare reform and floated what he thinks is a good policy change.
But what about Britt's question? Because that is one of the big concerns. And President Obama and the Democrats expanded Medicaid, covered people that weren't previously covered. Millions of people got it under there. This, while it is true that it doesn't cut Medicaid, it slows the rate of growth of Medicaid. Some people who now have coverage eventually would lose coverage. And in states that didn't expand Medicaid, there's a tremendous concern that they're going to be stuck in an inferior position. How do you make them whole?
Well,
both sides.
I'm underwhelmed by governors who love free money. I mean, you have a lot of governors who say, oh, we want more of this money. 90% of the cost being picked up by the feds for the expanded part of Medicaid, which, by the way, actually discriminates against, for example, Americans with disabilities, because they only get 62% federal funding. And some states have actually re-rigged the game to get more able-bodied adults. Second, I would say look at what Mary Mayhew did in Maine, where they passed reforms that said if you're an able-bodied adult, then you ought to be required to work if you have no children. Medicaid has expanded dramatically into zones it was never designed for, and I think the American people would support reforms that had work requirements attached to people who are able-bodied adults.
So do you understand what he's saying there? He's saying, yeah, look, you only really should get Medicaid if you're working, if you're an able-bodied adult. So let's say you're poor and you just lost your job and you can't find a new one. You go through a period of a year or so, let's say, you can't find a job. In that year, Newt Gingrich says, fuck off, you don't deserve health care. You don't deserve it. You don't deserve coverage. With a guy like Newt Gingrich, I don't know if there's any getting through to him. First of all, most people on Medicaid are already working, but they're working poor and they don't make enough money to be off of Medicaid. And they don't have, employer-sponsored health insurance. So most people on Medicaid are already working. The ones who are not, you just want them to not have any coverage. You're admitting it right there. So if you're not going to cover them with Medicaid, and they can't afford to purchase on the private market, you're just saying, fuck off. Go ahead, have no insurance whatsoever, no coverage whatsoever. If you have medical problems, you should go bankrupt. Because that's what's going to happen. If you take away somebody's Medicaid, they can't afford insurance on the private market. Oftentimes, even if they do get insurance on the private market, they can go bankrupt. But having no insurance on the private market and somebody's poor and they get sick, dude, that's guaranteed absolute ruin. You're going to destroy them. But that's what he's proposing as his ideal solution, because he simply doesn't give a fuck about people who aren't rich. Because in Newt Gingrich's mind, he thinks, well, if you didn't make a lot of money, obviously you're an inferior person. You're clearly, something is defective in you. Like you fucked up. It's on you. It can't be that the economy is complex and that we don't live in a meritocracy and that, you have, by the system by its very nature, the economic system is going to leave people who work hard behind. Can't be that, no. It has to be that there's something wrong with you morally. It's a moral failing on your part that you're not rich. Therefore, you're poor and you need health care, but you're out of a job? Well, you can fuck off then, and you deserve whatever. It's punitive. It's punitive. Oh, you don't deserve health care if you're in that situation. And then always, these are the first people who, if they're ever in a tough spot, they would go, help me. Why don't people want to help me? Medicaid, somebody help me. The classic Republican hypocrisy. When it doesn't affect you, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, you lazy poor peasants. When it affects you, oh my God, help me. Why don't people want to help me? You guys are so cold and heartless. You're the one who's been cold and heartless all along. I can't believe he's floating this idea as like a, eureka, I got it. I just came up with a great idea. You shouldn't have health care if you're poor and you're out of a job. Like, what do you think? What do you think, Newt? Is it a choice? People who are unemployed, like, you know what? I feel like having no employment today. Or is it overwhelmingly likely that, people get fired? and because there's layoffs that companies do because they need to try to make profit. You know, in Newt's mind, remember when we had the subprime mortgage crisis in the Great Recession and the unemployment rate went from like 5% to 10% over a very short time span, over like, you know, a course of 5 months or so? In Newt's mind, what he would have to say to be consistent with the philosophy he's espousing here is, over that 5-month period, wow, 5% of the country just decided to be super lazy in that 5 months. Or there are giant macroeconomic factors that go into the way an economy functions, and it's really no fault of their own. It's the fact that the economy tanked that they lost their job. But Newt would say, well, you're unemployed and you can't afford health care on the private market? Go fuck yourself. No Medicaid for you. And to the idea, like, I'm so tired of the free money argument. Please, I don't think they realize how stupid they sound when they make it. Like, I'm underwhelmed by governors who want free money. Free money? You mean tax money, which is the money we paid in to the government. Like, if you're going to ask people, hey, what do you want the tax money to go to? Reasonable people are going to say, yeah, healthcare should be in, like, the top 5 of stuff I want my money to go to. But he makes it seem like it's the government's money. It's not the government's money. It's our money. It's taxpayers' money. So as taxpayers, yes, we would prefer the money go to something like healthcare for people who need it, as opposed to random wars and corporate welfare and Wall Street bailouts, which is what you want it to go for. You free money. It's not free money. We pay into the system, so we should get out of the system. So governors say, yeah, I'd like some tax money for healthcare. That's the most reasonable thing ever. It's not free money. No, what you want to do is you treat the government like it's a mafia. Like we're just paying the government to appease the government to get off our ass. No, I don't want the government just off our ass. I mean, I want it off our ass when it comes to social issues. But on economic issues, if I'm paying the government money, they damn well better do shit that makes sense with that money, that I see a tangible benefit in my life and the lives of my fellow citizens. I can't deal with guys like Newt Gingrich, man. He thinks he's so smart. He thinks he's so smart, but he just takes warmed over, far right-wing bullshit talking points and spews them with his pompous way of talking, and he thinks like he's brilliant.